So last week we talked about markets, efficiency of markets, and then moved to externalities. Public goods are, in a way, an extreme extension of externalities. Public goods are things that can be enjoyed by everyone in a community and kind of everyone simultaneously. I mean, the simplest example, just think of a park that everyone in the town can go to the park, can sit down, enjoy the park or playground, have a picnic, whatever they want to do, something that's for use by the group. Okay, so we're going to talk about what it is that makes a good a public good, what the challenges with public goods are, and kind of specifically why that challenge shows up. So, economists talk about different types of goods, and there are two important characteristics that goods may or may not have: one, both, or neither of these. One is being rival in consumption, the other is being excludable. Okay. Being rival in consumption means that when one person consumes the good, another person cannot. Okay. In contrast to something that is not rival, where multiple people can enjoy the same good. Enjoy the same good without detracting from everyone else's enjoyment. So, a good that would be rival in consumption is an apple. When I eat the apple, no one else can consume the apple. It's all gone. Contrast that with something that is not rival, like watching a movie. I can watch the movie Godzilla vs. Kong. That's something I'm consuming. You can still watch that movie. It's not gone. Okay? Or watching a show on Netflix. I can watch Tiger King, and it's still there for you to watch. Okay? So these are goods, those are examples of goods that are not rival in consumption. Most of the things that we talk about, or most of the goods we think about, are in fact rival in consumption. The ones that are not rival are kind of the exceptions. And then there are some that are, I would say, kind of in between. Um, uh, Let me do another example of something that's not rival. A radio transmission. Okay. If I turn on my radio and I listen to some radio station, it's still there for you to listen to it. We're not competing for the same resource. It's not rival. Okay, now things that are in between: roads. Okay, so we can share a road. I can use it. You can still use it. Someone else can use it. Multiple people can use it at the same time. However, we start to reduce the benefit that other people get from it. So roads are congestible. They're somewhere in between being rival and not rival. And, this is like when I talk about these things, I try to come up with examples that are extreme, like a radio transmission is clearly not rival. In practice, there's usually some amount of, in practice, there are many things that are not at one extreme or the other. Another example of something that's not really rival in consumption is a library book. I can read a library book, and that book is still available for you to read. Not at the same time, but the book is still there. I can enjoy it, then you can enjoy it, then another person can enjoy it. Multiple people can enjoy it, and it doesn't get used up each time. Okay. Now, being not rival in consumption is, in fact, one of the important characteristics of public goods. And maybe the library book is an example of why communities or governments think about providing public goods. If we all want to read the same book, one option is we could each go out and purchase our own copy and read it, but that costs a lot of money. Alternatively, we could put our money together and purchase one copy, and we take turns reading it. And that's cheaper, and we all get to enjoy the book. Okay, that's the idea, more or less the idea behind a public library, right? We take up money from the community and we purchase shared books, and we take turns reading them. And it's cheaper, and we can all enjoy the same books because they are not rival in consumption. Okay, again, we can't do it at the same time, but we can take turns. The second characteristic that goods may or may not have is being excludable. And that means that we can prevent people from using without permission. Okay. Some goods are excludable, some goods are not. My apple is an excludable good. That is my apple. You can't have it. Okay? You would need my permission to consume my apple. Okay? Got it? Okay. Now, the example of a radio transmission is one that is not excludable, which means that there's no way to prevent people from consuming the good once it's created. Okay. Once the radio station broadcasts its signal, everyone can listen. Okay. Excludable, people can't use without permission. Most goods are excludable, like my car. You can't drive my car without my permission. It's mine. Okay? It requires a key to use it, but also there's property issues. Okay, but things that are not excludable include, I talked about the radio transmission. By the way, we could contrast that with Netflix is something that is excludable, right? Netflix makes broadcasts available, but you have to be a member. You have to pay your fee. Okay, not excludable radio transmissions. In some ways, knowledge. Once someone has done research and come up with an idea, often it's hard to prevent people from sharing that knowledge. In some ways, like once someone figured out the answer to the question of 2 + 2 equals, that knowledge was available for everyone to use. Or once someone solves a problem or comes up with an idea like airplanes or rockets, the general knowledge is out there for everyone to use. Now, there are ways of trying to make knowledge excludable, and I'll talk about that in a minute, like intellectual property. Okay, but again, knowledge. Once one person knows it, other people can know it too. There's no way of preventing someone from finding out a fact or finding out some information. Um, let's see, other things that are not excludable. Um, things like wildlife. Okay, and I'll mention two examples. One is game, like Bambi. We go out and hunt Bambi. That Bambi who's walking down walking across my meadow, I can't prevent anyone else from shooting that Bambi. It doesn't belong to me. Okay. The laws in North Carolina say any hunter is allowed to harvest that Bambi. So, again, an example of something that's not excludable. Fish, especially fish out in the ocean in international waters. There are no rules preventing anyone from capturing that fish or harvesting that fish. Okay, another example are public lands. Okay. National forests have some resources that are open to everyone. Out in the western part of the U.S., there are large areas of land belonging to the federal government, administered by the Bureau of Land Management, where people are allowed to do things like graze livestock on publicly owned lands. Okay? It's not excludable. It is publicly owned land, and all members of the public may use it. Okay, so here are some examples of things that, again, are not excludable. Now, intellectual property, this is kind of an in-between thing. So, intellectual property, that means research, technology, creative works, like movies, books, okay, music. Okay, fundamentally, these things are not excludable. If my pharmaceutical company comes up with a new chemical compound that does wonderful things for your body, a new drug, there's no way that I can fundamentally prevent you from using that information. Information is something that, again, it's not fundamentally excludable. Or, if I write a novel, other people can recopy that novel. The information, the words in it are not excludable. However, there are protections like patents and copyrights where the government says that if a person develops some intellectual property, they have a period of time when they are the sole seller of that property, and other people may not use it without their permission. Okay, so that turns the intellectual property, the knowledge, into something that is excludable. My company invented some new drug that does wonderful things for your body. Yes, the formula is out there in the public, but the law says you may not use it without my permission. Okay, which kind of leads to something that is applicable right now. How to create a COVID vaccine. Okay, this is something a handful of companies have been working on. Dozens of companies have been working on. Some of them have solved it. Moderna, Pfizer, or Pfizer BioNTech, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca have all come up with solutions, And they've got their technology out there in the open. Okay? Now, again, usually technological advances are excludable because of the law, because the law says only the creator may use it, and the creator may prevent other people from using it. However, in this case, most of the companies that receive funding from the US government did it with the agreement. By the way, this was what was called Operation Warp Speed. Did it with the agreement that once they came up with their technique for vaccinating people, their technology, they would let it be in the public domain. Let anyone use it. They were not going to exclude anyone from using that. Okay, so here, like I bring up intellectual property as something that in some cases it's excludable, other cases it's not. Something else that, depending on circumstances, could go either way, roads. Okay, most public roads, everyone's allowed to use them. They're open to everyone in the public. There are, however, a few roads where people are prohibited from using them without permission, and I'm thinking in particular of toll roads. Yeah, so free roads, these are essentially non-excludable, whereas toll roads are the excludable good. Just the way they're set up. One is excludable, one is not. Okay, so are we clear on these different types or these different definitions of the terms? Okay. Then economists talk about the four possible combinations. Goods can be rival or not. They can be excludable or not. And the goods that we're most familiar with are the private goods, which are rival and excludable. Okay, my car, only one person can be using that at a time, and you're not allowed to just walk up to my car and drive it away. Okay, belongs to me. If you don't have my keys, you can't drive it. Okay, so private goods are ones that are rival and excludable. The other extreme are the goods that are non-rival and non-excludable. We call these public goods. Okay. Non-excludable means everyone is welcome to use them. There's nothing to prevent people from using them. And non-rival means one person can use it and another person can use it as well. So for example, the formula for, I believe, the Moderna vaccine. Okay, please don't sue me if I'm wrong about this, is a public good. Moderna entered into this agreement with the government that they would not exclude anyone from using their formula. And it's also not rival. My drug manufacturing company can be using the formula, and yours can be using it at the same time, right? We can both be using it at the same time. One of us using it does not prevent others from using it. So that would be, I think, a pretty good example of a public good. The radio transmission is also a good example of a public good. You know, it's not rival. I can listen to the radio station. You can listen to the same radio station. And it is, what's the other thing? Not excludable. The broadcast is available for everyone to listen to. Okay, another example of a public good, by the way. These are all under this category of public goods. Clean air is a public good. If I breathe some air, it doesn't deplete the air that's available to you significantly. Okay, also, there's no way to prevent you from breathing in this air that's floating around. Oh, so, got it? Okay, I can keep going on with examples. The night sky, looking at the stars up in the sky. We can all do that. We can all do that simultaneously. Landscape, we can all enjoy the scenery, and so on. So, I've talked about public goods and private goods. Those are the two major classifications. Then there are two types of goods. They're sometimes described as quasi-public goods. These are the ones that are non-rival but excludable, and the ones that are rival but non-excludable. Okay, so first of those are called club goods. Club goods are, as I just said, they're non-rival, but they are excludable. Now, here's a test to see who's been paying attention. Of the examples I've given, what might be something that is a club good? Not rival, but excludable. Yes?
Netflix, I know that's excludable.
Exactly. No, Netflix is exactly right. Okay. Or is a perfect example. I've probably done multiple ones, but yes. Okay. Multiple people can use it. So not rival, excludable. But they can block you from using it if you don't have their permission. Movies. Okay. The way I think of club goods and remember the name is I imagine, say, a country club that has its own swimming pool. Swimming pools are kind of like a public good, right? Multiple people can use it at the same time. They have that non-rival feature to them. I can go swimming. It doesn't take away much from your ability to go swimming until the pool gets congested. Okay, so a swimming pool is like a public good, but only for members of that country club, only for members of that club. Okay, so the people are excluded if they're not members of the club. So, or I suppose even like a clubhouse, a building that is used by a group of people, they can all enjoy it at the same time or taking turns, but they can keep out other people who are not members of their club. Okay, the other type of quasi-public good are the common resources. Okay, they are rival in consumption, but they are not excludable. Okay, meaning that when one person uses it, it's not available to other people, but not excludable. That means that we can't prevent people from using it. Okay. Does anyone recall something that might fall into this category? Victoria?
Fish in the ocean.
Fish. Yeah. Okay. Fish are an example of a common resource. Again, wild fish. wild game, public lands that have resources like grass for grazing. Let's see, I was going to do something else. Oh, hot water in your house or apartment or some other small area. Do you know the problem of living with a roommate, housemate, apartment mate who uses up all the hot water? Okay, that's the problem with common resources. It's rival in consumption. If I use that hot water, it's not available for you to use, but it's not really excludable. Okay, you can keep using it and using it, and we don't have a way to. There's not simply a way to prevent people from using it. Of course, like there's a problem with common resources, which is that they tend to be overused. People tend to overutilize them, overexploit them. Um, and we try to do things about that. Try to come up with ways of managing wildlife or managing public lands, or in this case, setting rules for who can use how much hot water. Okay, so I've talked about types of goods. Now I want to kind of change directions and do kind of a thought experiment. Think about something. I call this my donation experiment. Imagine there's this class, okay? But for the sake of the math, I'm going to say with 25 students. Okay, people on Zoom, I'd like for you all to also pay attention to what's going on. Imagine and kind of participate in this. Imagine each of you starts with $100, and you have a choice what to do with this. You can donate some, all, or none of that money to a group investment. Okay? And the money that goes toward that group investment will double in value and then get shared evenly among everyone in the class, all 25 of us. Okay, got it? Okay, and you all get to decide how you're going to, each of you gets to decide how you're going to use your money. You all sit down, or you each sit down, think about what you're going to do. And I would like for you to actually write down on a piece of paper or on your tablet how much of this $100 you would donate to the common good. Money that you don't donate, you keep that. Okay? But what you donate to this common investment, again, it'll double in value and then get shared among everyone in the group. So think about this for a minute and write down how much you would donate to the common good or the common investment. There's not really a right or wrong answer to this, but we're going to discuss what your answers are. And again, people on Zoom, I'd also like for you all to have your own answer. Okay. You all thought about this? Okay. Now imagine that we had done this for real. I pass around the basket right now. You put your donation in. It's going to double in value and then get shared evenly among the group. Okay. So, having said that, who donated how much? Sophie?
I would donate to 75 and keep 25 just because you want some money, so like items like worth it. But that 75 is like more money, more potential.
Okay. We have one answer, 75, because the 75 has more potential to grow, but you still want to keep some of the money or ensure that you have some money for yourself. Okay, did I accurately summarize what you said? Okay, yes?
I would do 0% of those 25 people doing it, so I want to make money, more money that way.
Okay, we have one person here who says 0, and tell me again why?
Because I know other people are gonna donate, so it's gonna be evenly distributed out, so I'm not gonna lose any money on this.
Okay, you're not going to lose any money on this because what other people donate is going to be distributed evenly. Okay, and okay, fine. So again, 0. Other answers? Yes, James.
I said 50.
Okay, 50. And I'm just going to make a guess that's a balance between private and public, right? Okay. Nellie?
I said 21.
25? Okay. Toward the common. Okay. So I have 0, 25, 50, 75. Okay. Victoria? 45. Okay. Anyone on Zoom want to give me your answer and explain why? In particular, did anyone say 100? Okay. Zeros. We have 1 0 here. Okay, any other zeros? No. Okay. Well, I told you all there's no right or wrong answer to this. But there is. The right answer is 0. Okay. And I apologize for having to ask this again. Is it
Cassidy.
Cassidy. Okay. I really like your answer. Here, I'll give you a prize for being good with your money. How much do you want? Oh, you did a good job with your money. You deserve a prize. Okay, Cassidy said 0, and and her logic is that's yours. That really is yours. Okay, good job with your money. Good job with thinking this through, because that is the right answer. If you're paying attention to what's good for you, like the money that other people have contributed, that doubles in value and you get your share of that, okay, regardless of what you put in. I mean, here's how I think through it. Actually, let me take a step back and think about what's best for the group would be if everyone donates everything, right? What's best for the group, if all 25 students donate their $100, doubles in value, becomes $5,000. And remember, that's $5,000 that the group has. It's split up so that everyone has $200, but $5,000 for the group. Sorry, this is way down here. That's the maximum the group can possibly have. As an economist would say, that is efficient. That is what is socially optimal. It maximizes like total surplus in this little economy. Okay. However, let's suppose everyone else is donating their full $100 and you have to decide what to do with your money. Okay? So if everyone else donates $100, all 24 other people donate $100, it'll double in value. Then it's $4,800. And then you get your share of that, 1/25th of that, which is $192 for you. Now, realize that what you get from that common pool is fixed. That $192 is coming to you no matter what you do with it. Now, then with your money, you can decide what to do with that. Okay, again, you're getting that 192 like from the common pool. then you could put your $100 into the common pool. It doubles, it becomes $200, gets split 25 ways. You get $8 back from it, bringing you to $200. Or you keep it all for yourself. Then you get $192 from the common pool plus your original $100, and you end up with $292. Okay. It's in your best interest just to keep your money. Don't donate to the common good. Now, okay, so you get like what's individually rational is what we economists say. Um, it's individually rational not to contribute to the common good. Now, realize when you do what is individually rational, in your best interest, in your selfish best interest, it reduces the total amount of money that the society gets. Right? Instead of $5,000 among the whole class, it is it's just $4,900 among the whole class. So that's not efficient. Okay. Taking this a step further, okay, well, again, as I said, what is socially optimal is everyone donates 100, everyone receives 200, and the total 5,000, that's the maximum possible. But what's individually rational is for each person to donate 0. Because every dollar you give to the group, it doubles in value, but gets split 25 ways, and you get 8 cents back from every dollar you donate. Okay, so if you think about this, here's a dollar. I can keep it for myself. The whole dollar is mine, or I can contribute it to this common good, and I get 8 cents back. Now, which one do I want? A dollar or 8 cents? A dollar or 8 cents? A dollar, right? Okay. Then if everyone is being individually rational, everyone donates nothing to the common cause, everyone receives $100, and the total that the whole group has is $2,500, which is the lowest possible outcome. Okay, so people behaving in their own self-interest do not provide the optimal quantity of a public good. The optimal quantity, I mean, like we provide $5,000. That's what makes society best. Okay, and also makes each person individually $200. Right. But what's rational for people to do is donate nothing, which is the worst for society. I mean, society has $2,500 on their own. Well, sorry, together, and each person has $100 on their own. Like, so this is a little bit weird and troubling that what people should rationally do results in the worst possible outcome. And the thing that is the best possible outcome, everyone donating $100, is like, if that's what everyone else is doing, suckers, right? Like, should I donate my money to that? I mean, again, like Cassidy, I think you explained this correctly. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's my $100 to me, or a fraction of it comes back to me if I donate it. So even if we had all talked about we're going to donate all our money, I'm going to secretly hope that when we actually write down our values and make our contributions, that you all do what you said you were going to do, and I'm the only one smart enough to realize I shouldn't donate anything to this common cause. Okay, so I'm secretly going to hope But probably if we've all had training in the principles of economics, we're all going to know that same thing, and we're all going to simultaneously cheat on each other. Okay, now there are two ways of describing this. The term that we use when talking about public goods, and let me just do one term. When we talk about the fact that it is individually rational to contribute little to the public good. Okay. Economists call that free riding, which is a term you might have heard before. A free rider is someone who benefits from other people's contribution to a common good without contributing themselves. You've all been part of I'm sure you've been part of a group project where there's been one member of the team, one member of the group who's been a free rider, correct? Who's been in that group? Okay. Who has been that free rider? Cassidy? No? Oh, shoot. Okay. I was thinking you were smart, but maybe I was wrong. I mean, it's rational to be a free rider, isn't it? Number one, why should I contribute when a lot of my effort goes to raising the grades of my group members? Also, why should I contribute when my group members are already doing their portion of the work? It's completely rational to be a free rider. Okay, so, if I ever, now I get into sort of like little ethical debates with myself. Like, if I were to assign a group project in this course, should I reward people for being free riders in their groups? Whichever group has the most free riding actually did the best job of understanding economics. Any group that actually worked together, deserves to be penalized for not understanding free riding. Okay, but again, the problem is free riding. It's individually rational not to contribute to the common good, not to contribute to public goods. Okay, now there's so much that I could say about this, but I'm going to go back to my experiment about donating to a common cause and change just one little rule in that. Okay, same experiment, except we can exclude people who don't contribute a certain amount, okay? So we can form a little group, and in our group, the rule is if you don't contribute your X dollars to the group investment, you get nothing in the end, okay? And so we all, as members of our group, agree what X will be. Okay, by the way, there's no incentive for anyone in the group to contribute more than X dollars. If your group has agreed that we're going to donate $50 each, anyone who doesn't donate $50 gets nothing out of the group. Donating $51 is still like individually irrational, because it's back to the same problem of you get back only a fraction of what you donate. So in our group, let's decide how much people should contribute. And we agree that if you don't contribute this, you don't get your money, your share. What should X be? Hmm? Okay, James says $100. Okay, so people who join James's group donate all $100. Yeah, $0. Okay. Well, then people in your group all donate nothing. It doubles in value, and then that portion gets shared out. But okay, so you stay with your original $100, right? Okay, each person gets 100, okay, or keeps their original 100. Let's try some other value. Who wants to suggest a different value? Nellie?
30.
Okay. So Nellie's group, did I spell your name right?
Yeah.
Okay. If I just use worse handwriting, it can look right. Okay. Donate $30. Okay. So that means each person keeps $70. The other $30 goes to the common, what am I calling it? Investment or group investment. Where it doubles in value and then gets split evenly among the other members of the group. So if like there are 5 members in Nellie's group, they each donate 30. So they've donated $150. It doubles in value, 300, and then gets split 5 ways, which results in 60. Yeah. Actually, no matter what size the group is, everyone's share turns out to be double what they put in. Okay, so the final result. Okay, $70 plus $60 is $130. Okay. Yes.
This isn't directly related. I just got a text from someone who's attending online. Apparently, no one on Zoom can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so James's group, no amount that they donate, everyone keeps their $100. Nellie's group, the requirement is donate $30 and then you get your share of the group investment. And people in Nellie's group end up with $130. Okay, let's do a quick vote. Who wants to join James's group and who wants to join Nellie's group? James's group, put up your hand. Who wants to join Nellie's group? Put up your hand. Okay, so Nellie's got a better plan. Does anyone want to come up with another suggestion for your group? Okay, a different quantity that people have to donate.
Donate the full 100.
Okay, so now we come to Victoria's group. Okay. People have to donate all $100, and everyone who donates $100 will get their share of the group money. So let's see what's going to happen. You keep $0 for yourself, $100 to the group investment. Okay, then that's going to double and it gets shared evenly among the other people who donate $100. And so whatever the size of her group is, the end result will be everyone gets $200 out of this. So like if there are 8 people in Victoria's group, each donates $100, that's $800, doubles in value, $1,600, gets split 8 ways, it's $200 each. So everyone ends up with $200 from, from this investment. Okay, so final result. People in Victoria's group end up with $200. So we're going to put this to another vote. James's group, Nellie's group, or Victoria's group. No one likes James, right? Or James's group, sorry. Correct? Okay. So it's between Nellie and Victoria. Who votes to be in Nellie's group? Who votes to be in Victoria's group? Even Nellie wants to be in Victoria's group. Okay. So we've got an even better suggestion. Okay, let's keep going. Can someone top Victoria's group? No, they can't. Okay, so this is the perfect outcome. Okay, Victoria sets up her group, and everyone who donates $100, money will double, and they share out the proceeds. And everyone wants in. All 25 people recognize it is in my best interest to join that. So she's going to have all 25 people join her group. They all donate $100. It all doubles. They all end up with $200. And so this plan results in $200 apiece and $5,000 for the entire class or whatever. Okay. Which, by the way, is the maximum, right? I talked about that earlier. I said this maximizes, this is the largest amount that's possible for society. So this is optimal. Okay. Pretty cool. With this one tweak, we went from free riding resulting in the worst possible outcome to everyone does what is in the group's best interest, and we come to the best possible outcome. Does anyone want to make a guess what the real difference is? That one rule that you had to contribute some amount in order to get a share back. What is that described as, or how would I, using idea, there's a word that showed up in the lecture earlier today.
I was going to say regulation, but
Not regulation. Excludable. Okay. Excludability solved the problem. Okay. Free riding happens, and similar problems happen when a good is not excludable. In this case, that group money was not excludable in the first case. Anyone could benefit from the group investment in the first case. In the second case, you could only get your portion of the group investment if you contributed. Okay, so let's see. And we don't need that slide. Okay, so again, this one change added excludability and changed that investment, the money from the investment, from being kind of a public good to being a club good, okay? It was like Victoria's investment club, and people in that club could get money off of the investment, but not the general public, okay? It turns out excludability is important in determining whether a good is provided optimally, right? We talked about, last Tuesday, we talked about markets do a pretty good job of providing private goods in a socially optimal way, when there are no externalities. By the way, a public good is almost the ultimate in externalities. When I invent a formula that provides a COVID vaccine, other people can benefit from that same formula. Like everyone benefits from that same formula. Like that's an externality. Other people benefit from something that I produce. Of course, the problem is that when there are externalities, the market is not efficient. Like in this case, the problem is I wouldn't want to develop, in most cases, I wouldn't want to spend money to develop a formula for a vaccine if other people get most of the benefit from that, not me. So in some ways, like public goods are the ultimate in externalities. And my purchasing a little bit of a public good, most of the benefit goes to other people, so it's individually rational for me not to contribute to the public goods. That's one way of thinking of public goods. Anyhow, markets do a pretty good job of providing private goods. They do not do a good job of providing public goods. It's not in our interest to contribute to public goods. Okay, then just the small switch from being a public good to a club good changes everything. And what people do on their own is, again, socially optimal. Okay, now the last group of things that to talk about are the common resources. Okay, common resources, again, those are things that everyone can use, but when one person uses it up, it's not available for others. Economists talk about the tragedy of the commons. Okay, this is refers to overuse. This refers to overuse of common resources. Okay. This is a reference to, I guess, back in days of yore in jolly old England, villages would have a commons area, a field where anyone was allowed to graze their livestock. And there might be like an optimal number of livestock, sheep, to graze on that area of land, or to graze sustainably on that area of land, because you can't eat all the grass. You need to leave some grass so it can grow back and continue to feed your sheep. The problem is individual people have an incentive to add sheep beyond what is sustainable, because the grass that they leave to grow back, it grows back, but probably someone else's sheep will eat the grass that grows back. So it's kind of a choice between, do I let my sheep eat the grass now, or let it grow into future grass, but probably someone else's sheep will eat it. And what's individually rational is to let your sheep eat the grass while it's available, which is not consistent with sustainability. I mean, a real version of the tragedy of the commons is what happens with wild fishing stocks. Okay? So fish out in international waters, there are no rules about who can or cannot catch a fish. Okay? Individual countries have limits, but this is international waters. Countries don't really govern them. It's complicated, but think of the problem that a fisher faces. There are some fish down in the water. I could catch them all, but then there won't be many to replenish the fishing stock for next season. Or I could let some of the fish go, catch only a portion, let some of the fish go, and then they'll have babies. The size of the fishing stock will double, but then it gets shared among all the other people who are fishing out in international waters. By the way, what I just described is the thought experiment that I did earlier, right? You could catch 100 fish, or maybe there are 100 fish down there. I could catch them all and keep them for myself, or I could let some of the fish remain in the water. They will double over the next year, and then I'll get some share of them next season. It is individually rational just to catch all the fish while I can, because the fish that I let go, true, the stock will double, but most of those fish will go to other fishers, not to me. So it's in my interest to take as many fish as I can and forget about sustainability. Okay, that again is what we call the tragedy of the commons, the overuse of common resources. Okay, so you understand how these different goods play out now? Okay, real problem is that individual decisions do not work well with public goods. Like private contributions to public goods result in inefficient outcomes. Private decisions about how much to use the common resource lead to outcomes that are not rational, or I'm sorry, what is individually rational might not be what's best for society. And even into that kind of scenario where if we simply could coordinate and commit to all donate $100, everyone is better, and the worst case is when we each behave on our own. Okay. All right. And so, think of other examples of overuse of common resources, like the hot water problem with your roommate or family member who overuses the hot water. And maybe they even blame you of doing the same thing. Okay? But of course, it's rational for you, as long as the water is there, to enjoy using it. And the same is true for them. Okay, so are we good on this general topic of public goods? Okay. There's something else that I'd like to jump off into while we're talking about public goods and policies. And it's the value of life. Okay, this is an important thing for some policy decisions and something that economists can address. Okay, so I'm going to skip forward to a cartoon, and I apologize. I'm going to read this cartoon aloud to you. And, these two people discussing a philosophical question. Person number one, if you were in a burning building and you could either save an elderly woman or the Mona Lisa, which would you save? Person number two responds more or less the way that I would. That's easy. The market has already spoken. The Mona Lisa is worth at least 872 times the value of a human life. Okay. First person says, right, but if you were actually in that situation, what would you do? And the second person responds, bidding war. If the lady's family is willing to pay more, from my perspective, they have equal value. Of course, since I wouldn't own the painting later, a substantial discount might. Okay. By the way, bidding war is a great way to establish which is actually worth more to society. People are like, oh, I'll pay $500 to save grandma's life. And then someone's like, oh, I'll pay $600 to save the painting. Oh, wow, it's an important painting. It's a cultural art, of cultural significance. No, grandma, $800 to save grandma. And then they bid this up, and that's a way of finding out which is really more valuable to society, grandma's life or the painting. If grandma's more valuable, people will pay more. Okay, fine. Continuing with this. Okay, person number one. Okay, but what would be the good thing to do? And person number two, high yield savings account. The interest alone would be. Okay, person number one, I'm asking, how can you compare the value of a great piece of art to that of a human being's life? And then person number 2, oh, you'll want to use what we call fractions. Okay, and then person number 1, economists are banned from philosophy. Okay, because to an economist, this is a simple decision. How much is a human life worth? Okay, I would love for the answer to be, you can't put a price tag on a human life. Okay, I wish that could be the answer, but we have to. Okay, we have to make decisions about how much a human life is worth when it comes to safety matters or when it comes to health care. So this will be the next topic. Value of life. Okay, value of life. Putting a dollar amount on a human's life. How much is it worth paying to save a person's life? And these are decisions that show up in like safety matters. This is something that is relevant. So safety matters, like, there's a road where people sometimes die in accidents. The highway department could spend some money to make the road safer. Should the highway department be willing to pay $100 to save a life? Probably. Should the highway department be willing to pay $100,000 to save a life? $100 million to save a life? We have to draw a line somewhere. We can't simply say we should spend, there's no price. We have to spend everything because our resources are limited, right? We can't put all our resources into saving all lives. So we have to somehow determine a maximum to spend on a life. So safety issues. Second thing is medical care. A person is dying unless they receive medical care. Is it worth spending $100 to save the person's life? And spending the person's own money or an insurance company deciding what they will approve spending, or for some people, health care might be provided through the government, like Medicare, Medicaid. How much should the payer be willing to pay to save a person's life? Is it worth a procedure costing $100, procedure costing $100,000 to save the person's life, $100 million? We have to draw a line somewhere. Another is, to be honest, pandemic shutdown has an element of this as well. Shutting down the economy costs people money, okay? But it saves lives. So there's a trade-off there. How much economic damage should we accept in order to save a life? If we can, if $1,000 of economic damage saves the life, is it worthwhile? If if it costs $1 million of economic damage to save each life, is it worthwhile? If it costs $100 million to save each life, is it worthwhile? These are kinds of questions where we have to make a decision about what to do, and we cannot simply say that, or like the answer of we should be willing to spend everything just takes us to, I don't know. No, we can't do that. We have limited resources. We can't spend everything on everyone. So, okay. So this leads to our important question. How much is a person's life worth? Okay. And I'm going to ask for a couple of people that I can pick on, okay, to ask you all questions. Okay, we've got Victoria, and who else? Sophie. Okay, how well do you two know each other? Not at all. Okay, good, good, good. So, Victoria, here's my question for you. How much would you pay to save Sophie's life?
Of my own money?
Yeah. And to make this easy, you have the rest of your life. I'll let you borrow money, go into debt. You have the rest of your life to pay this off if you'd like to. So don't think that you're limited by what's currently in your bank account. Okay, but yeah, Sophie's going to die unless she gets money for an operation. And, you know, she's asked everyone else, you're the last person. How much would you give her? Oh, okay, fine. She's not looking you in the face while she's asking this, okay? She's not looking you in the face and crying while she's asking you this. You're just aware of it. She's never going to find out that you're aware that you're the only person left who could possibly donate cash. You could donate some cash. You could go into debt and pay it off over future years to save her life. Or we could do different versions of this. Sophie's been kidnapped, and you know the kidnappers want a ransom. They've asked you for a ransom. Okay, if you don't pay this ransom, Sophie's never going to be seen again. If you do, she comes back unharmed. How much would you pay?
100 grand.
$100,000 for Sophie's life. Okay. Why?
Well, doesn't mean I sound like a total asshole when I say this, but I was thinking about what I want to do with my career and what average income would be, and then if I were to take on a loan or line of credit of 100 grand, how long it would take me.
Okay, so you're thinking about like what you can afford in the future. This is fine, by the way, and it's based on what you can afford. Would you pay that for anyone? To save anyone's life?
I don't know. I mean, when you say anyone, could it be like a
Right.
murderer or just anybody of
Okay, could it be a murderer or just a random person? I mean, these are good questions. Okay, are you implying that you'd be willing to pay less to save a murderer's life?
yeah.
That's fine. Okay, you're allowed to value a murderer's life that way. That's okay. Just a random person. You know little about the person other than they need money to save their life. A stranger's GoFundMe account.
I don't know, probably not.
Probably not. So you would do this for Sophie, but not for a random stranger. Now, do you understand? I'm trying to get at the question of what makes Sophie different from those random strangers. Sophie, you're not allowed to answer that.
Because I know her age, knowing that she's a young person, she has a long life ahead of her if she does survive it. And then also just the relatability of also being a young female in a similar life
Okay.
circumstance to me as a personal element.
Okay, so reasons that you would pay 100,000 is a lot, right?
Yeah, I
And
don't know.
But you say healthy future. And you say something about identifying personally with her because of like demographic similarities, similar in age, gender, etc. Okay. Okay. Those are fair. Like I think those are very reasonable things. Would it be fair to say that if it's someone you don't know, lives in Boise, Idaho, has nothing in common with you, they've just got a GoFundMe that no one is contributing to, and they need some money to save their life, how much would you contribute to that person's GoFundMe? And then, like, be prepared for me to say, here is one on the internet. If you said $10,000, I want it, like, put your money where your mouth is. Or if you say $100, if you say $10.
Honestly, like right now, if you were gonna make me pay it, $5.
What?
5.
5. Okay. So, an anonymous stranger. You'd say 5. Okay. Now, Sophie, you had wanted to chime in with something.
I was just gonna say 50, but if like money where your mouth is, I feel like there's certain stages in everyone's life to be like a person who donates, and it's just like college kids, it's just like not that stage for us. We're more like the hands-on people because we just like don't have that type of income.
Yeah.
So I simply can't put my money.
Okay. Okay, so your point is there are different stages in people's lives when they can contribute different amounts.
Not today.
And right now you're better at like actions instead of donating resources. And I agree with that statement as well.
The other one was
like-
it was you give a loan, so it's like different.
Yeah, but see, when I offer this loan, actually, this does sort of change things because you have your whole life to pay it off. Now, uncertainty about future earnings makes it complicated. Okay, both of you raise good points. Okay, Victoria, I appreciate your honesty that you would spend $5 to save the life of an anonymous stranger, because that's about what I think is true for most people. I think that for the typical person would be willing to pay to save the life of a stranger save the life of an unconnected stranger is approximately 0. That's how people behave. I mean, that's the honest truth. I mean, the International Rescue Committee is one humanitarian agency that distributes aid to distressed parts of the world. It suggests that a donation of $600 to $1,000 could save a person's life. Okay, how many people would take them up on this, or how many people do take them up on this and hand over $600 to save a person's life? Certainly not many. Okay. Most people would not pay that $600 to $1,000 to save the life of an anonymous stranger that they will never contact, that they have nothing in common with. And I could point to other things like, donating blood. Okay? What does it cost to donate blood? Nothing, right? You just have to sit there with a needle in your arm for half an hour. It's uncomfortable, but could it save a life? Yeah, it could. Okay. Who has donated blood in the past year or so? Oh, Victoria, James, and tell me your name. Taylor. Okay, so we've got a few people who are willing to do that much to save a life. Okay? But, again, it's in that neighborhood of approximately 0. Now, that's not true for all people. So, Victoria, we've established that you'd pay $5 to some anonymous stranger. That's not unreasonable. Sophie, $100,000, really? I know it's awkward because she's listening right now.
I mean, if you ask me to right now, no.
Yeah.
But maybe in some future self, if I make a lot of money,
In 20 years,
possibly.
someone calls you up and says, hey, remember that gal Sophie who sat behind you in class when you were both first-year students in college? She's been kidnapped and she needs $100,000 to pay for her ransom. You're like, no, I don't remember that person. Okay, you pay $100,000. I'm going to call you in 20 years and call your bluff on this. No. But now, donating blood. That seems a sensible thing. Okay, now, for some people, donating blood is what they will do. For others, maybe not. Now, something I'm going to stress is it depends on whose life. When we talk about how much is a life worth, it's whose life and to whom. Okay. My simple answer is a better way of answering this question. So I said the stranger is approximately 0. I'd say it depends on what you get out of the relationship. Okay? Like Tyler over there. Victoria, point to Tyler. Do you remember who's Tyler? Yeah, okay. Well, how much would you pay to save his life?
Right now?
Yeah, right now. I mean, okay. $2? Okay, even less than an anonymous stranger.
Oh, sorry.
No, 5, okay. It depends on how much value you get from that person in your life. And how much would you donate to save your mom's life? And you'd donate blood to save the life of a stranger, but, you'd give your mom your kidney, right? You'd be willing to pay more depending on how much you get out of the relationship with the person. Okay, so how can we determine how much you get out of the relationship? I've given you examples of people that you get something out of the relationship with. Starting with the anonymous, unconnected stranger. You get nothing out of that relationship, right? Okay. Your mom. Presumably you get something out of that relationship. And your mom's life is worth something to you, and it's less difficult for you to commit to saying, I would go deep into debt to save my mom's life, or I would donate a kidney to my mom, even though I wouldn't donate blood to a stranger. Like, you're getting something different out of the relationship. Okay, so how do we calculate the value of someone else? To you. Okay, now I've talked about your mom, but that's a tricky one. Okay, let me suggest the way to evaluate how much someone is worth to you is what you pay them. Okay. So, Victoria, I appreciate that you've been such a good sport about this. I should spare you misery in the future. Like, this is something that I think is important to, like, think about and question and discuss these things. Okay, but now, James, I'm going to pick on you. Remember Tyler? Okay. Can you point to Tyler in this room? Someone back there. Okay, so in other words, no. Okay. Does Tyler make your life better in any way? Does his existence?
No, not really.
Okay. So I mean, really, to a very simple approximation, Tyler brings nothing into your world, and you would be kind of indifferent if Tyler just disappeared from your life forever. Yeah? Tyler, I'm sorry about this. Okay. Now, what about me? Do I bring anything into your life? Do I make your world a better place? Okay. I do. Thank you. What?
You teach us about economics. That makes
I
a
do.
huge difference in our lives.
And I can tell you how much that difference is worth because you pay me for it, right? I mean, whatever you pay to take this class is an estimate of how much value it brings to you. Okay? So yes, I teach you about economics. That was a perfect answer. And I do bring value to your lives, and you're willing to pay for it. So, again, what something is worth to you is approximately what you pay them. Now, things are a little bit trickier when it comes to families, and you don't, like, exchange money for hugs and so forth, right? Your mom doesn't charge you for hugs, or you don't charge your mom for hugs. There's no economy there. If you were a good economist, you'd charge your mom. You'd be like, she'd be like, give me a hug, and you'd be like, oh, $3. And she'd be like, okay, it's worth it, and you'd hug. Okay, we don't do that kind of thing. But this is one way to kind of get at approximating the value of a person's life to the rest of society or to others is approximately their lifetime earnings. Okay, so this is known as the human capital approach to calculating the value of a life. Okay, human capital, this phrase refers to the skills knowledge, capabilities that a person has. Okay. Again, this approach to calculating the value of a person's life is called the human capital approach. We can approximate how much a person is worth to others with their lifetime earnings. Okay, so one dilemma that society sometimes faces is, should wealthy people be allowed to get better medical care than people who are not rich? Okay. Years ago, Steve Jobs, the wonderful founder of Apple, who has brought so much value to your life, who is using an Apple product right now? Okay, yeah, that's maybe the majority of us are using products developed by Steve Jobs' company right now. 10 years ago, or however long ago, he had cancer. He needed a liver transplant. Should a rich person be given priority in receiving a liver transplant? Should a person be able to pay for organs and be able to pay a lot for an organ? Sophie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, like, morally, no, but, like, at the end of the day, like, everything's about money, so yeah.
Okay, everything's about money, so yeah. And that's...
Moral standards, no.
Moral standards, no. I would say by moral standards, yes. He brought a lot of value into people's lives. That's what made him rich, the fact that he was running a company that had a stellar record of producing really useful gadgets. It made him rich, but it reflects the fact that he was bringing value to many people. And it would be a benefit to keep a person like that alive. I'm just giving this as one argument. Now, ethics and morality are complicated. And so I'm arguing one position. I can argue other positions as well. But, okay, I'm going to end right there. I'm out of time for today. And we'll continue this on Thursday.